So happy Juneteenth. It is June 19th, and Juneteenth is now a federally recognized holiday. And I really think that's great. I think that's awesome. I see a lot of people. There has been a very positive response to this, and that's great. Of course, you've got your detractors, you've got some naysayers, but I don't even want to talk about them because, in the large scope of things, they don't matter right now. Not just right now, they don't matter. They're obstacles. We can just prepare to overcome obstacles. It doesn't matter who they are, boom. We just have if we have a plan, a game plan in place to overcome obstacles, to overcome the haters, the individuals that just want to be roadblocks, and we can just get them out the way, get them out of our way, and keep doing what we need to be doing. But I've seen the interesting question, and I'm glad I'm seeing this question because we need to be seeing this question, but more importantly, we need to be providing the answer. And the question is, okay, Juneteenth, what's next? Juneteenth, and in fact, Corey Bush, she's like, oh, we can do Juneteenth and reparations. We could do Juneteenth and I think she said healthcare and some other things. And I'm like, yes, we definitely need to be focused on solving problems. And Juneteenth is a nice symbol, a nice gesture, but it is not a solution. It's a celebration, but it's not a solution. And that's what we need. We need solutions. And so, what kind of solutions should we look for? Well, let's just take a look at it. What is Juneteenth? And Juneteenth is about Black people finally becoming independent, finally becoming, and there's some Black people who had already gotten gained their freedom, their independence, and there were some people who gained their freedom, and some people who actually took their independence. And there's a distinction because there are individuals who got free from slavery, but then just started working for somebody else. You had sharecroppers, people who would be just still they're borrowing money and borrowing supplies, and now they're in debt and they have to keep working, these fields in order to pay off their debts. But independence is more than that. Independence is no longer being dependent upon somebody else for survival. And that's where we need to be headed. That's what we need to be focused on. And in not just just career-wise, in terms of that we're not working for somebody. That's definitely part of it. But it comes to, so that's financial independence. We need to be able to provide all of the things we need for ourselves, for our families, without having to ask, beg, or be dependent upon anybody else. Because if we are dependent on somebody else, some other community to feed us, to clothe us, to provide us health care, they can set terms and conditions on how that help, how those resources are provided. That's why independence is absolutely the bare minimum, the baseline. That's what. So for years, I've realized, and I've looked at history, and I've realized that the even individuals who we look back at as heroes and who would without a shadow of a doubt, beyond a shadow of a doubt, who were courageous and brave and put themselves at great risk to fight for something, they may not have had a clear vision of what they needed and who they were dealing with. but it's crucial that we realize who our enemy is, because we're dealing with an enemy that is very crafty and that has demonstrated an ability to divert, to infiltrate and divert movements into different directions, and to basically to control them. And they've sent movements and energy into directions that are largely performative, but not purposeful. And that is what we need. We need to be focused on a purpose, goals, objectives. We need to have clearly articulated objectives so we know this is what we need. Not asking, not going to the government saying, oh, what are you going to do for us? And going to the government and telling them, this is what you're going to do for us. If you don't, we have a plan in place to get somebody who will do it for us, or get you out of the way so that we can do it ourselves. And ultimately, that needs to be a focus. We need to be in control of the resources, of the pathways, so that we can do the things we need to do ourselves, and we don't have to wait for government. We don't have to beg for resources from any other companies. It requires independence at so many levels. So it requires financial independence. It requires educational independence, because we cannot ever hope to succeed while we are allowing our children, our progeny, our future to be shaped and molded by our enemies. That is absolutely unacceptable. Like, there's no way we can ever succeed if, because at that point, our children aren't even our children. They're somebody else's, because you have somebody else who is molding these young minds, shaping these young minds, influencing these young minds from tender ages all the way to adulthood. We cannot allow that to continue. So financial independence, educational independence, political independence. We cannot continue to rely on the Democrat or the Republican parties, or blindly trust any other party, any third party for that matter. But what political independence means, we need to loosen the grip that the Democrats and Republicans have on the political process. Because right now, you can see what's happening in certain states where the Republicans are changing the laws to fit them. And what's not being talked about is the Democrats have and will continue to do the same thing. They've done it in New York. They they have they in fact use COVID-19 as cover to drastically change the political rules so that they could kill third parties. No, we need to be able to loosen the laws and make sure that these two parties are not controlling the laws. So if need be, we can go our own way. So if need be, we can say, oh, Democrats, you're not going to do what we need you to do. Republicans, you're not going to do what we need to do. Okay, middle finger to both of y'all. We do this ourselves. But for that, that's why we need political independence, and not and to loosen, to make sure that these two parties are not in control, and do not continue their stranglehold on the political system. So we've got financial independence. We've got, of course, economic and financial independence are, closely hand in hand. Educational independence. We've got political independence. We need corporate independence. We need, and that ties into some of the other things I've talked about. But we need to have our own businesses. We need to have, and we need to have our own businesses, not just owning clubs, not just owning laundromats, but at all levels, because we need to be able to control retail, and we need to be able to control the wholesalers who are supplying the retail, because otherwise, if you take a look at some of the difficulties uh, some brothers and sisters have had in trying to do something like um, hair beauty supplies, and how they have other communities freezing them out of receiving supplies, supplying their own community-owned shops, and then messing with the supply line to uh, to brothers wherever the shops we own. Like, no, we need to own the supply lines, which means we also need, especially if like grocery stores, we're also going to be need property. So we've got to be land independent. We've got to own land. We've got to own land for housing. We've got to own land for farming. We've got to own, we have got to have at every level, we have got to have resources so that we are not reliant on anyone. It's going to take time. It's going to take work. It's going to be hard. But this is what we need to be focused on. This is where we need to be moving towards. Because right now, we're at the mercy of too many individuals who do not mean, who have bad intentions for a community, do not like us, and do not respect us. We need to be in a position where we can't control people's minds. We know we can't control people's minds. So we need to be in a position where, regardless of what's on their minds, what their motivations are, we have power over ourselves and we're not at their mercy. So when we ask Juneteenth and, answer Juneteenth and independence. As always, thank you for checking out the channel. Don't forget to share, subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you next time.